Okay, just trying to make a video, doing something different. I'm not tethered to anything, just straight MacBook Pro, Logic skin cover, keyboard cover. That's what I meant to say. Not Logic. I do have a Logic one, but this is Ableton, and then Ableton Live 11. So I'm utilizing. I haven't really done this but one other time, and I wanted to see what I see guys that be on here. This is LJ drums. I think LJ does his like this too, where they use the they actually just bring the wave file in, and then they position it to make it a beat out of it. So I started with that. I'm gonna see if I can solo. I think if I go shift, it must be option. Maybe it's command. Yeah, command, and then touch the tracks. I can solo out what I want. So I started with that. I used one of his perk loops. And for some reason when I dropped it in, Ableton registered it at like 156. So he must have did it in double time. I just put it at 78 because that's what he had it listed as 78 BPM. So I made a 4-bar. And what's cool is, like I showed you with the SP404, you can literally just like group those together if you wanted to. The only reason I'm not is because if I want to make another 4-bar different, then I would have to cut them out again. I guess that makes sense. So instead of doing that, I'm just going to leave them the way they are. And that's just one loop. See, he had it listed, drawn up as 78. So I just use 78. But I like that little percussive. And then I just added some hats, snare, some rim shots, 2 different rim shots to make it, have it vary a little bit. The kick's the same. And the only thing I did to this kick that was different, other than that, everything has a Valhalla reverb, as well as, which I put on all my drums, 10% air Valhalla, the air drum air on there. And then I put, I tried to, when you do a double kick, instead of just leaving it the same, all one volume, I went in and just lowered the gain like 3 decibels down just to give it some variation, because we're working with audio here. So that's the way I work with audio on here. I typically would go into each wave file and change it. If I drum it in with the SP, I don't do any of that because I'm just, it's already velocity sensitive, so I don't have to worry about that, which I kind of like better anyway. But anyway, so then I did scalar, as you've seen me do before. When I do scalar, I use humanized velocity. I use both velocity and timing when I do chords. But when I do a melody, I only use velocity for the I only use it for the humanized for the velocity. I don't use it for the timing because I'm playing my own melody, so it's kind of like my timing, how I play it. I'll talk about that in a second more. The bass line, what I did different, this is, I prefer to play the bass, but sometimes if I'm just trying to get a simple bass line that just follows the track, then what I'll do is I'll go and copy this down, and then I'll just take the root notes. And then something else I do is I adjust the volumes of them, so the velocity of them, so that they don't hit the same all the way through as the chords. And then I'll highlight all of them and I'll nudge them. I mean, like, you got to zoom in. Like if I zoom in, you just nudge. They're already nudged to some degree because I played it with the timing of the chords. But then I'll nudge it just a little bit more just so it's off. Because mind you, I'm copying the same MIDI notes. Right? So see how these are timed, and you can see if you look closer, they're a little bit off on each one because that's the timing in scalar. But then when I do the bass line for it, all I'm doing is just taking the bass line. Actually, I'm going to put that at -6 and just playing it in. I just copy that, bring it down here, delete all the top notes, and then just take those and select them all and nudge them just a little bit more so they sound a little bit, so you can distinctively tell there's a bass there. In other words, that's basically what I'm doing. Excuse me. And then in the melody, one thing I do in the melody is I play the melody on this keyboard, and it actually works. So I'll open up, I have it linked to scalar track. You can MIDI, you could do it to the white keys if you want. I don't. What I do is I just pull up the scalar I'll follow the notes. And learn an octave. If you get, there's 2 octaves technically on this when you're in it. I'll and use the Z and X to move the octaves up or down, and then I'll just play on the key bed. Right? Which, if you leave velocity on, don't turn timing on. Like I said, it'll mess you up. Leave velocity on the humanize. Then you can play it in. And then the only thing it didn't do is it didn't make the velocity very distinctively different for whatever reason. So I went in, and I love this about Ableton. One of my things I love about Ableton is you can set the randomize for the note. So I select all the velocities, and then I just go over here, set this to like 108. You can pick the velocity range, by the way, of where you want it to be. I don't want to change that at all, but I messed it up. So I'll have to fix that and figure out. There we go, get back to 0. So I just did the randomize with this on the note velocity. And then when I hit it, it basically just goes all over the place. And then I kept some of it in place and then adjusted notes that I want a little bit higher. So that way the velocity changes. And I think it sounds pretty good. So here's the whole track together. This is not mixed or anything, really. It's just, I always have a haze on, and my TC, I use the loud mix just to bump up that sound, the barricade, which is a limiter compressor. Now, if I really want to make it sound distinctively, I'll go in and add air to maybe this, and I might pick some lo-fi, something in here. Let's see, retro keys. Let's see what this one does. Even the chords, like I feel like they need a little air flavor to them. Maybe use the vinyl. And if it's too much, just turn the intensity down. Or if you want it to really sound lo-fi. A lot of times I'll use the SP1200 one. I like that one a lot. Like, and this has like, this key has, that I'm using is the OPX. This is all MPC stuff, right? Just using a bell vibe in there, nothing major going on. This one is the stage piano from MPC, Feathers. So you can do this in the MPC, or if you have all these plugins, you can use it in just Ableton Live or Logic. I like them. I think they're great plugins. The strings is super usable. I'm not gonna say super usable. They're usable. The pianos are the best to me. The organ's good. The Mini D is really good. The OPX4 is pretty good, but you got to really get into, if you're not just using the presets, you got to be willing to go in there and tamper with all this. There's a lot of stuff going on this page. And if you understand LFOs and all that stuff, how it works, this could be fun because you can create your own instruments. I don't care for the Fabric Piano XL. That stuff is pretty much just like, it reminds me of Native Instruments stuff, the way they have those two sounds together, and that's supposed to be like an instrument. I don't know, it just doesn't appeal to me. The Air Flavor Pro, I love that one, but you can also use RC20. You can use what was the other one I have? Excite Audio makes 2 plugins, the Lifeline Console and the Lifeline Expanse, which has that type of vibe in it too, so you can use that. And they're on sale sometimes, so they're pretty cheap. Yeah, so scaler, use that for this. You know, I mean, you can draw the notes in if you don't want to play them in. I just say if you have a keyboard, why the heck not would you? I'd rather use the keyboard and play it than draw it. I don't know, it gives you at least a feel like you're trying to play the instrument in. But if you like drawing, I'm not knocking you. Some people just enjoy that. So you'll see how the bass, if you listen to the bass, let's mute this. We'll leave the drums going. If you listen closely, that bass is coming in right a smidgen after this. after the chords. I mean, just a smidgen. In my mind, and I can't say this is factual, but in my mind, in my opinion, I feel like that does something the for the bass, especially when you're not playing a live bass, something like that. It's the timing or something is doing. Let me do something else. I like these EQs on here. The built-in EQs are amazing. So I'm gonna EQ out some of the mid or some of the bass, just a little bit. That can help too with being able to hear the and I'm not gonna sit here and say that I'm like the best mixer, mastering person. I'm not. And I don't like it. Honestly, it's not my favorite part of the music. I prefer just the actual creation. I'm the kind of person where I would create it, hand it off to somebody else and let them mix and master. Just because that's not my favorite part. But if you can find just a little bit of pieces, little nuggets of what you can do, because nowadays a lot of this stuff will master it for you almost. So if you can just find just a smidgen of something to do or use good sounds with your stuff, then you'll find that it's pretty good. You don't have to do a lot of tweaking. You can use if you feel like the drums are hitting. There's one called I think Cable Guys makes it. It's called Nicky Romero's Kickstart 2, which I believe, if I'm right, you put on the bass or the drums. I guess they released a new one. Okay, I'll have to go get that. And then you side chain that, I believe. Put the side chain on the kick, right? I don't know how much that does for this type of music that I make, and I'm gonna tell you why. I mean, maybe somebody that really knows could say, yeah, it does make a difference, and it may. But here's why. A lot of times my bass, if I'm playing an actual bass, is never hitting right on the one or right when the kick hits. So if I'm programming a kick and it's sitting on the one, it's not nudged or anything, is it actually ducking during the bass line falling out? I don't really know. I hear all these people talk about side chaining, and I know there's some validity to it, but I can't say I fully get it to the point where it's like I can say, oh, you gotta have side chaining. Because a lot of my songs I'd never use side chaining. So this is kind of new to me to try this, but I'm willing to say that, hey, it's not a bad plugin, and it's not super expensive either. And there are other plugins. There may be one here in Ableton. I have the standard version, so there may be one in the plugins here. MIDI effects. Is it MIDI or audio? Would it be under? One of these, you'd have to search it out to see. I know they have a glue compressor, which is cool, I heard. I don't use it much. I know the EQ is really nice. There's other stuff in here. One day I'll get the nerve up to take a class on on Ableton. That would be fun. But the thing is, I use it more like an arranger most of the time than I do actually making music. So this is a rare moment that I'm just trying something new out. Try to turn the camera a little bit so you can see it. So I'm just showing you can still make cool songs. I made another, let's see, where is it? I made 2 patterns. I've been doing that lately. I really like to have 3 patterns, but the second pattern is slightly different. You'll see some of the chord changes in it just to give the song some variation. I showed this in my last video, I think I did, where I was showing you arranging, and I was using 3 different things. I was using a bridge, a chorus and verse, as well as, what was the other one I used? And a pre-chorus. So anyway, you can do fun stuff like that too. And this is just showing you that I know a lot of people say, I don't like DAWs and because it's not fun or whatever, but I think that really it can be fun. Let me just say that. I'm not gonna tell somebody it's not. It is fun, and you should. That's not true because some people they don't agree with that. But it can be fun, and it's all about your approach. Sometimes I come in, and also about switching. A lot of times, if you switch up stuff and don't do the same thing over and over, then a DAW is fun. So what I mean by that is I might come in the DAW and do a Serato sample thing where I sample something off the radio. That's one workflow. But then I might come in and do another workflow where I do this kind of stuff or I might come in and use a workflow where I'm just tracking out from the SP or the OP1, some stuff I made in there and I want to build on that. So it's about switching it up. I recently noticed this too when I was just messing around in the preferences. I'm gonna show you. Look at this. I don't know if you can see that. Let me see if I can zoom in. They actually show your like my iPhone in here. So I could technically use it as a mic. Use the iPhone as a mic is what it is, and then record into Ableton. I didn't even know that. I tried it today and it worked, but it was a little finicky. I'll zoom back out a little bit there. But it's something you can do. So just know that yeah, it's fun. One of my favorite things I have a lot of favorite things about Ableton is I love how their plugins sit down here, don't take up a lot of CPU. You can see the CPU up here. You open it, you do what you got to do, you close it, you don't have to look at it. But also, like, for instance, on like my drum bus, I never really messed, even though I know it was possible and I used it sometimes and other stuff, not as much though. For some reason, when I'm in here, I feel like the drum bus is just so easy to use. I mean, literally, I put stuff on there in the order I want, the stuff that I want to affect all the drums. Come in here and I turn it up on the, can you see this side over here? No, you cannot. Right over here where that mouse is at over here. I turn that all the way up. That's the send, and it's going to send A, and just turn. And other DAWs have this stuff, but I don't know why I never used it. It just wasn't standing out to me. But lately, or pretty much all the time now, I do this. I'll add that drum bus in, and then I just enhance or put how much I want of it to affect each one. Kind of fun. And like I said, I'm not really super into the mixing and all that kind of stuff. It's never been my bag, but I like to actually play the music more than anything. But it's kind of neat and how easy it is to make a song in the DAW. And one of the things is you don't have to go anywhere else. It's all here, right? It's all one place, one location. Get it done, move on to the next song. For some people, that could be boring. But if you think about it, MPC, Kai Force, whatever you want to call it, those are all the same thing. They're all just like a DAW inside. Those are a DAW in a box. This is a DAW in a computer. Or you can call it a box if you want to call it that. But it's the same thing. Now, is it different in the workflow? A little bit, sure. Because it's a piece of hardware with software in it. But honestly, when I look at it, I still see it the same. I really don't see much difference. The only time I see something different is like the SP, because it's not really a DAW at all. It's just a sampler. So, but the MPC went from like a sampler to sampler, drum machine, DAW, slash now they got a workstation basically in it. So it's almost like a real it is a workstation, but it's like, I don't even know how to describe it. It feels like a DAW basically in a box. And I think at one point they were describing it that way anyway, as a DAW in a box. I think Akai was saying that, if I recall right. But yeah, so this is fun. Sometimes I'll build this, and if you got a computer that's a little bit slower, has some CPU issues, then I'll take, if this is my main bass line, I'll just go ahead and freeze the track and then make it a waveform, and then keep this portion just muted so that I have it later on when I want to use it if I need to make adjustments. But anyway, that's it for this video. 20 minutes of me rambling, I know. Hopefully you picked out some things you like, some techniques, some whatever ideas, and you can always build from it. Look, I can learn from anything just about, even if it's something I don't want to do, I can still learn from it. So pick out what you can learn and utilize that and let that be what it is. Anyway, all right, I'm out. Later.